What if the most powerful person in the room was the one you barely noticed? Not the loudest, not the flashiest, just silent, watching, calculating. Everyone's trying to be seen, to be heard, to prove something. But the man who doesn't chase attention, he controls it. You don't need to yell to dominate a room. True power doesn't announce itself. It whispers, and in that silence, it conquers. How to silently outsmart everyone, without stress, without noise. There is a kind of power most people never understand. It doesn't advertise itself. It doesn't scream to be acknowledged. It doesn't chase claps or applause. It does not react to provocation. And it never explains itself. This power moves like still water, calm, but deep and dangerous. It doesn't bend under pressure or shrink when challenged. It simply exists. It endures. And in the end, it wins. This is the power of silent mastery. And it is the secret of the most dangerous people on earth. Because here's the truth. The most dangerous man in the room is never the one shouting across the table. It's not the man pounding his chest or dominating the conversation. It's the one sitting still, calm, controlled. He says little, but his presence speaks volumes. He doesn't need to raise his voice, because his mind is untouchable. In a world obsessed with noise, where everyone's talking, posting, reacting, we choose a different path. We don't live to react. We live to respond. There's a difference. Reacting is emotional. It's instant. It's what they want. Responding is intentional. It's powerful. It's rare. That's why it works. We don't win by shouting louder. We win by outlasting, by outthinking, by mastering ourselves in a world that wants to distract us from within. And there are ancient principles, timeless, unbreakable, that give us the silent edge. Master these, and you will outsmart chaos without ever lifting your voice. Let's begin with the first. 1. Master your emotions, or be owned by them. Here's the brutal truth. If you don't learn to master your emotions will master you. You become a puppet, dancing every time someone pulls your strings. So the first step is radical. Kill the need to react. When someone insults you, mocks you, belittles you in front of others, you don't lash out. You don't chase revenge. You don't even flinch. Not because you're weak, but because you've chosen something stronger than revenge. You've chosen power, real power, quiet power. The kind Marcus Aurelius understood when he wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. Your emotions are not your enemy. They're a weapon, if you learn how to use them. Imagine this. You feel rage bubbling inside you after someone disrespects you. But instead of acting on that fire, you sit with it, you hold it, you examine it, and then, you do nothing. You say nothing. You let the storm pass. Because storms always pass, and when they're gone, you're still standing. That's when you win. You win not by reacting, but by remaining grounded when everyone else is flailing. Think of it like this. Your enemy wants your energy. They feed off your outrage. They win when you explode, when you argue, when you try to prove them wrong. But when you don't play the game, when you let them waste themselves on anger and noise, while you stay calm, stay sharp, stay calculating, you win the war without even stepping into the battlefield. Discipline is not silence because you have nothing to say. It's silence because what you're planning is louder than any words. Your stillness is not weakness. It's strategy. Your lack of response is not fear. It's focus. You are preserving energy for when it counts, for the real battles. not petty emotional skirmishes. This is the art of not flinching, of not blinking, of standing like a mountain while others shake like leaves. 2. Stop seeking approval, or stay powerless forever. The second principle is just as hard, but just as powerful. You must stop needing to be liked. That doesn't mean you become cold, cruel, or arrogant. It means you become free. Free from the addiction to praise. Free from the exhausting chase of being understood by everyone. Free from needing validation to feel like you matter. Because here's a secret. You cannot outsmart the world while begging for its approval. You can't walk your own path if you're constantly checking if others are clapping. Every time you filter your words to sound more agreeable. Every time you post something just for likes. Every time you shrink your ideas to avoid judgment. You give away your power. You hand it over, piece by piece. And for what? Temporary approval? The illusion of connection? You want to be respected? Then be willing to be misunderstood. As Epictetus said, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Let them laugh. Let them question you. Let them think whatever they want. Because their opinion of you is not your business. Your business is truth. Your business is growth. Your business is becoming unshakable. So let them misunderstand you. Let them whisper. Let them mock what they don't understand. They laughed at Stoics too, at first. Until the world burned down and only the Stoics were still standing. You must become someone who doesn't just tolerate disapproval, but thrives in it. Someone who does not depend on praise to move forward. Someone who builds in silence and lets success speak volumes. We have now touched the first two foundations of silent power. Control your emotions, don't let them control you. Stop needing approval, own your narrative. But there is one more, one final, powerful principle that turns quiet strength into quiet dominance. And it's not about doing more, it's about needing less. Let's turn the page and go even deeper. We've already learned that the truly powerful don't beg for attention, nor do they need external approval to validate their existence. They act with calm precision, letting the world misunderstand them while they build something undeniable. And now, we continue down that same path, with the final principles of silent mastery that sharpen your edge and make you untouchable. Stay calm. Let them believe they've won. Don't argue. Don't chase after explanations. Just smile, and let silence do the heavy lifting. Because you know something they don't. You know the truth, and the truth is this. A man who needs nothing cannot be controlled. He cannot be bribed, tempted, provoked, or manipulated. You can't push buttons that don't exist. You can't dangle rewards in front of someone who's not hungry. You can't threaten someone who's not afraid to lose. He becomes immovable, untouchable, a mystery to those who crave reaction. Because they don't understand how someone can be content without applause, recognition, or validation. And yet, there he is. Still, focused, free, a man who moves without asking for permission. That's the man people end up following. Not the one who pleads for attention. Not the one constantly seeking approval. But the one who leads with presence. Not words, with action. Not noise, with vision. Not desperation. We don't speak just to be heard. We speak so that our words are remembered. We don't act to impress. We act to create impact. Quietly. Strategically, intentionally. We're not here to put on a show. We're here to build, and not just anything. We build things that last, things that cannot be ignored, even when built in complete silence. We outsmart the world, not by shouting over it, but by building within it something so solid, so undeniable, that it speaks for itself. Third principle. Delay your reaction, because time is power. Now comes the third pillar, and it may be the hardest one in a world obsessed with instant gratification. Delay your reaction. Because here's what most people do. They rush. They panic. They jump to conclusions. They speak before thinking. They act before understanding. They let their emotions pilot the ship, and then wonder why they crash. But we are not like them. We pause. We wait. We breathe. Because time is the ultimate advantage. You see, when you react immediately, you're not choosing. You're letting instinct choose for you. And instinct is easy to predict. It's easy to manipulate. It's easy to beat. But when you pause, when you take the space others refuse to take, when you allow silence to do its work, you become a different kind of force. Not one that's reactive, but one that is patient. And patience is terrifying to impulsive people. As Seneca wisely said, no man was ever wise by chance. Wisdom isn't random. It doesn't fall out of the sky and land in your lap. It is earned, painfully, deliberately, through restraint. Wisdom is forged in silence, in stillness, in the spaces between emotion and response. Think about it. When everyone else is losing their cool, when they're arguing, lashing out, trying to be first, what happens when you don't move? What happens when you wait? You see the full picture. You understand what others missed. You notice the motives behind the actions. You watch them reveal their cards while you still hold yours. Every pause you take is a weapon. Every moment of silence is a calculated move. You become a strategist, not a reactor. A master, not a puppet. We use time as an ally, not an enemy. We don't measure decisions in seconds. We measure in days, weeks, even years. If needed, we play the long game. The kind of game where your enemy doesn't even know you're playing until it's too late. And when the moment finally comes to move, we move with precision, with clarity, with impact. Outsmarting, then, is not really about intelligence. It's not about having the highest IQ or reading the most books. It's about discipline. The discipline to delay gratification. The discipline to not react. The discipline to wait, while everyone else burns themselves out. Fourth principle. Observe everything. Reveal nothing. And finally, the fourth principle. The finishing piece of the puzzle. Observe everything. Reveal nothing. This is the quietest, yet most powerful advantage of all. In today's world, people are obsessed with broadcasting their every thought, opinion, and move. They want to be known, seen, heard, and in doing so, they become predictable, easy to read, easy to use. But us? We watch. We don't rush to judge. We study. We notice patterns. We track behavior. We listen, not just to words, but to tone. Hesitation, contradiction. We watch for weakness, not to destroy, but to understand, because understanding is power, and information is a weapon. But like any good weapon, it needs a sheath, and that sheath is silence. When you observe deeply and say little, you gain the advantage. You see what others don't even realize they're showing. Remember what Zeno, the founder of Stoicism, taught. We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak. Most people speak to impress. They want to sound smart. They want the room to admire them. But us? We listen to dominate. We don't reveal our plans. We don't outline our strategies. We don't defend ourselves at every insult. We don't correct every misunderstanding. Because when you speak too much, You give away the map to your mind. You let others trace your patterns, predict your steps, infiltrate your peace. But when you observe everything and reveal nothing, you become a fortress. Untouchable, impenetrable. The world wastes itself in endless reactions. But we conserve ourselves through careful awareness. And that's why we win. You now hold all 4 principles of silent power. 1. Master your emotions. 2. Stop seeking approval. 3. Delay your reaction. 4. Observe everything. Reveal nothing. But how do we put this into practice? How do we embody these principles in daily life? Especially when the world is pulling us in the opposite direction. In the next part, we'll break it down, step by step, because silent strength isn't just a philosophy, it's a lifestyle. We ended the last page with the quiet power of restraint, how choosing not to react often leaves a stronger impact than any argument ever could. But now, let's take this one step further. Because real clarity, the kind that changes how others see you, doesn't come from what you say. It comes from what you do, and the results that speak for themselves. People may misjudge you. They might label your silence as weakness or mistake your calm as indifference. But here's the truth. Clarity is not something you can force upon others with words. It is earned, patiently and quietly, through undeniable outcomes, through action, through the strength of your results. And the most effective part? They won't even see it coming. Why? Because you gave them nothing to anticipate. No warnings, no dramatic proclamations, no defenses. You moved in silence while they were still talking. And by the time your results arrived, solid, irrefutable, unmistakable, it was already too late for them to argue. In a world where everyone seems to be shouting for attention, the person who watches silently often ends up being the one in control. Because silence, when grounded in intention and strength, becomes a form of dominance. It's not about withholding, it's about choosing what deserves a response. As the noise around you grows louder, remember this: the man who observes without reacting, who holds his gaze steady while others lose theirs, that man commands the room without saying a word. 5th lesson: win internally first, then the outer victory will come. Most people are obsessed with appearances. They chase external success, chasing accolades, status, approval. They want to be seen as strong, respected, perhaps even feared. But what good is the world fearing you if you yourself are still trapped by your own insecurities, addictions, or emotional chaos? What's the point of being praised by the crowd if, deep down, you're still arguing with your own thoughts every night? The Stoics saw through this illusion. They flipped the script. For them, the real battlefield wasn't outside, it was inside. And the real victory wasn't over others. It was over oneself. Cleans, a prominent Stoic philosopher and student of Zeno, once wrote, "Lead me, Zeus, and you, O destiny, I shall follow without hesitation, but even if I do not, I shall follow nonetheless." That single line contains more strength than 1,000 loud declarations. It is the quiet courage of someone who doesn't fight their path but fully embraces it. Who doesn't resist what life throws at them, but learns to move with it, gracefully, powerfully, without losing their center. That is the mark of a master, not someone who bends the world to their will, but someone who refuses to be bent by the world. We're not here to chase control over others. That's a game built on fear, insecurity, and endless maintenance. Real strength lies in something far more elusive: mastering yourself. To outsmart the world, you don't need to outtalk it. You just need to outdiscipline yourself. Imagine a world constantly screaming for reactions, one that pokes and prods, trying to spark anger, pride, jealousy, or impulsive action. And now imagine yourself at the center of that storm, utterly still, focused, calm. That's power. To walk through fire and not flinch. To lose everything and not collapse. To face ridicule and remain composed. That is what Stoicism prepares you for. That is the kind of strength that doesn't fade when the applause stops or when things fall apart. You don't build this strength overnight. It's forged quietly, through small daily wins. Every time you pause instead of snapping. Every time you reflect before you react. Every time you return to your values when it would be easier to betray them. This is the ultimate outsmarting, not of others, but of your lower self. The part that wants to be liked, wants to be right, wants to fight back. Outsmart that, and the rest of the world becomes much easier to navigate. Even when everything around you is falling apart, you remain unmoved, not because you're numb, but because you've trained yourself not to be ruled by chaos. Even when someone insults you, you stay silent, not because you don't have a comeback, but because you no longer need one. Even when you're misunderstood, you let it go, not because it doesn't hurt, but because you've learned that truth reveals itself in time, not in arguments. The strongest man in the room isn't the loudest. He's the one who doesn't need the room to validate him in the first place. So when others chase attention, you chase alignment. When they want to dominate others, you dominate your impulses. When they cling to status, you cling to purpose. That's the Stoic path. And if you've felt the weight of these words, if something inside you stirred while reading this, know this: you are already on that path. Keep going. There is power in stillness. There is clarity in patience. There is victory in restraint. If you're ready to continue walking this journey of strength, silence, and self-mastery, follow along with us at Stoic Glow.